Hello everybody, how you doing? There's a lot of us here, 721 people. Hello, how are you all doing? Welcome to the final session of National Apprenticeship Week, brought to you by Career Map. This last event of the week has been held by Dstl. So here you're going to find out all about who Dstl are, the apprenticeships they offer, the recruitment process, the perks of working for the organisation, and the type of people that they're looking for. So the session is meant to be interactive, so please ask any questions that you've got in the chat box, and Amy will do her best to answer them as we go along. Also, please remember that the session is being recorded, so don't fret about missing anything. It will be emailed to you early next week. And I think on that note, it's my cue to disappear. Hand over to Amy, and I'll pop back up for questions.
Hello, it's lovely to be here at the end of National Apprenticeship Week. I hope you all had some really good talks as the week's gone through. We've been sharing lots of stuff on social media, and there's been some great interaction. So I'll just start by giving a bit of a brief to who I am. So I'm Amy, and I work at Dstl as the Early Careers Lead. And that basically means I help our business in terms of recruiting graduates, students, and apprentices. And that can range from everything from producing the job profiles to the apprenticeship plans, to coming and doing talks like this and going into schools. I myself, I'm quite young, so I've not been in the job that long, but I think it gives me a really good link into the market that we're looking at. You know, I can resonate with a lot of graduates and students to what they're looking for, so it brings a really unique view to what can otherwise be quite a harsh recruitment environment in the MOD, because it's a lot of tough skills that we're looking for. But we'll go straight into it, and we'll talk about the sort of things that Dstl is looking for and who we are. So we are part of the MOD, as I said, and Dstl stands for Defence, Science and Technology Laboratories. And the basis of our work is that we use science and technology to impact the security of the UK. Everything we do has a real purpose and importance in terms of the security of the UK, whether it be physical armoured tanks out on the battlefield, or the cyber security of websites like this one, or government websites. And this means that we work over a real variety of disciplines as well. We bring lots of different people together that you might not necessarily put together, and it can lead to some really interesting and unexpected solutions. And at the security level we work at as well, it is simply doing the work that you can't do anywhere else. So we could just play the first video. It just gives you a bit of an overview of what Dstl is and the sort of work we do.
Sure, I'll do it now. Just Amy, just a reminder, just pop yourself on mute for a moment.
Yeah. That's great, thank you. So what exactly is the purpose of Dstl? You know, why does the Ministry of Defence need a branch of science and technology. At the end of the day, the aim of DSTL is to protect lives, both here in the UK and abroad. Some of the key responsibilities include things like supplying sensitive and specialist scientist technology to the MOD, leading the MOD's science and technology programme, understanding risks and opportunities not just now, but also in the future. We act as a trustee interface between the MOD, the wider government, private sector and academia. So as well as all the work that we do with the government and the MOD, we have lots of connections at universities, both in the UK and internationally. So a lot of our workers are fellows at universities too, so we do a lot of academic research with them. And of course, we champion and develop science and technology skills across the MOD. So it's not always about what can we do here and now, it's about championing everyone in the science and technology space. We've got a little video here which we can put on, which just goes over some of our projects that we've done in the past 20 years. There's some really interesting bits in this one.
A lot can be achieved in 20 years. You could walk to the moon and back again, or read the whole of Wikipedia. You could even build the Great Pyramid of Giza. So, as we at DSTL celebrate our 20th anniversary, what did we achieve? Well, we provided expertise to tackle foot and mouth disease, devised electric armour to resist grenades, engaged hundreds of our experts to help soldiers in Iraq, refined technology to diagnose MRSA up to 10 times faster, improved the accuracy of global navigation systems, helped design the Foxhound armoured vehicle to protect troops, tested brand new camouflage for the armed forces, gave security advice during the London Olympics, developed a new fingerprint chemical to help catch criminals, identified the nerve agent used in Salisbury and supported the cleanup operation, offered technical support to the F-35 programme, and we researched COVID-19 to help combat the disease. And lots more. All achieved in the lifetime of a polar bear or a king cobra. But what about the next 20 years? Well, we're only just getting started. We'll be advancing artificial intelligence and data science to make smarter and quicker decisions for better results, accelerating autonomous systems and robotics, boosting performance and keeping people from harm's way, taking giant leaps in space, making out-of-this-world progress and securing UK interests, strengthening our cyber power, keeping us safe from constant and emerging threats, exploring the future, imagining the unbelievable and creating the unthinkable. Or we could build the Death Star. That took 20 years. Or we could just do the other stuff.
I think you can see from that short video the real breadth of the work that we do here at DSTL. And that's the work that's done at every level as well. It's not just if you're the top scientist who's been in the job for 20 years. The people who are starting in their first year doing apprenticeships or student roles are involved in that work from the very beginning.
I just had a little question for you there. Sorry, Amy.
Yeah.
And apologies if you're going to cover this already, but what kind of, I mean, those projects are amazing, like phenomenal, but as an apprentice, how much of an impact or hands-on experience can you expect to have? Do you get to work on projects like that? And if so, what's the kind of experience and the responsibility that an apprentice is given?
Yeah, that is a great question. And the truth is our apprentices are 100% involved in projects like that. So earlier this week, there's a government article went out, which we can share afterwards, about 3 of our apprenticeships in the cyber division. and the work they've just done, which is the real life cyber work, hands-on protecting this country, and they've all just received a first class degree as well whilst doing that work. A lot of it we struggle to talk about due to the security classification, so in terms of like the actual what project are you on, but 100% from the beginning. And in some of the videos I show later as well, you'll hear some of the apprentices, one of our OME apprentices, talking about how hands-on and practical her job really has been. We don't have capacity to hire apprentices and not let them do the real work, to be honest. Like, we want them there to do the real work.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, so we have 4 DSTL bases in total, and the 2 main ones that we host apprentices at are Porton Down in Wiltshire and Portsdown West in Hampshire. But saying that, we are very much moved in a direction where possible, we're allowing flexible working, which can include working from home. As you can see now, I'm presenting this from home. There will always be expectations with apprenticeships where you'll have to go to college and university. So we can't say whether that could be virtual or not. It will be dependent on the university. But we're doing our best to make sure that no matter where you are in the country, there could be a Dstl apprenticeship or opportunity for you. We also offer a relocation scheme where we help pay for your deposit on like a payback scheme if you need to relocate. If you do have to do a job where, for example, it's very hands-on and you're working in an engineering lab, so you need to move close to where we are. So that's also available. The way our divisions, well, the way our company is set up is we have divisions. So we have 5 science and technology divisions, and then we have the supporting business divisions. I won't read them all out because you can read what they are, and I think a lot of them are very obvious to what they can involve, but all of them take a spectrum of apprenticeships. So it's not just, you know, physics, maths, it's right across the spectrum. And our business ones as well. So they are for, like, I do not have a science background. I actually have a background in human geography, but I've learned a lot working in the business side of it to what the science side is. So this year, especially exciting, is we have some roles in estates, which we'd never had before. So they are health and safety apprentices, facility management apprentices. So we're really expanding the business side of our apprenticeship as well. I just got word this week as well that our exploration division are now looking to take on some apprentices too. So they'll be going live over the next couple of weeks, and they'll be in the kind of software engineering space. So that was really exciting because exploration was such a new division. We weren't going to be sure if there'd be capability this year. So it'll be a really exciting new pathway to discover.
Can I just interject there as well? Because one of the things that, you know, I wanted to ask about was the background of apprentices. So they don't necessarily need a STEM background. Is that right?
That's right. So it does depend on the apprenticeship. Later on, when I list a few of them, it'll be pretty obvious to the ones that require the STEM background and the ones that don't. But at the moment, we're pretty much a 50-50 split to STEM ones and what we branch as business ones. So business admin, project management. So depending on the level as well, depends on how high of qualification you need in that space. So some of them, for example, only require GCSEs, some of them require A levels as well. And once you're in Dstl, there's also the option to go on and do a master's, whether that is, so we have some people who kind of come in through a management, through a business side, and then get so interested in the science, they actually think, oh, do you know what, can I go do a degree in the science? And we have people that go the other way. We have people that come in as scientists and go, do you know what, actually, I found out I love managing people, and we send them on a course to learn how to manage people, and they become our team leaders. So it's really flexible once you're inside as well to kind of move between those two businesses because the training is there and available.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. And also I needed to ask as well, just come through, is a job guaranteed after the apprenticeship?
So what we do is we ring fence opportunities after the apprenticeship. So because of the way that our projects that DSTL receives is quite unpredictable, as it's very reactive to the global security climate. We can't always 100% guarantee there's a permanent job at the end. But as you get close to the end of your apprenticeship, myself, your team leader and our DSTL apprentice lead will work with you, and we basically ring fence some job opportunities for you to apply for, so only our apprentices can apply for those jobs.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. Just a quick note to the audience here before we move on. I can only actually see at the moment private chat. So I don't know whether there's an issue with the general chat. If anyone's trying to post a message and they can't get it through, I'm going to share my email address with you now. Just pop it through to me directly. So my email address is heather@careermap.co.uk. So just to spell that out, it's HEATHER@careermap.co.uk. I can see some coming through, but I'm not sure it's going to be all of them. So I'm just going to give you that other option as well. But I'm going to disappear and let you carry on, and I'll join you for some more questions shortly.
Thank you. Just another point on that as well, about there being job security at the end of it. Depending on the level that you come in at, say for example you join us and you study a level 3 apprenticeship, after that you could go on to study a level 6 apprenticeship. So it just because you've done one doesn't then mean you're not eligible for the next one. So you could actually continue studying with us if that's a route you want to go down, rather than if you're not quite sure maybe what area you want to work in yet, so you want to do a bit more, you can go down that route too. So the kind of reward package, I guess we call it here at DSTL. So apprentice pay does vary depending on the level of apprenticeship you do, but the pay increases each year with your academic progress. So every year that you pass your course and you continue working with us, your pay will increase. So you won't just be on one static pay the entire time you're here with us. And then when you progress to permanent, one of the ring fence jobs at the end, that again would be another pay increase. While you're here with us as well, we pay for chartership and accreditation support. So we'll pay for your membership of 2 relevant professional bodies. For example, most of our ordnance munitions apprentices are part of the OME body. So that is really helpful in terms of extra academic engagement. So not just what they learn through their course and not just the hands-on material that we give them, but it's another space that you can use for learning. Articles are posted in there. You can get workshops, you can get talks through all these accreditations. We have our annual leave as well as flexi working. So flexi working is a really nice perk at DSTL, where it basically means you have your standard hours that you work a week, but how you work them can be shifted to suit your lifestyle, sort of thing. So if you want to finish early on a Friday, you could work a couple of hours extra in the week and then take those hours off on the Friday, which is always really good. All of our 2 sites where apprentices are based, we have on-site restaurants, coffee shops and gyms, which I can now say are all reopened after COVID, thankfully, because they were closed for a bit. You get staff discounts on high streets and online shopping, restaurants. I use the cinema one all the time. The assistance with the rental deposit. So if you do have to relocate due to the job being a hands-on job in a lab, we will help sort that out for you before you start with us. We have in-year money rewards. These can either be thank yous if you've done something just that's gone above and beyond what you needed to do, or rewarding achievements if it specifically relates to a DSTL objective or target that we're doing. And finally, we have loads of clubs and societies, different activities that are run. I'm part of the local DSTL netball team, so it's a great way to, when you're coming in as an early careers, you'll come in as a cohort, so you'll get to meet the colleagues you're on the apprenticeship with, but lots of these are really great for meeting people in the wider business as well.
So we've had a couple of questions around the culture. I mean, you've explained quite a lot there actually, but yeah, for an apprentice, what can they expect coming in? Obviously, you've got these supports and these groups and so on, but what's the day-to-day culture like?
So I'll flick to the next slide for it as well while we're talking about culture, because this is about our inclusion at Dstl, which I think overlaps in a lot of the culture of it. So I think it's an interesting culture, to be honest, but it's a very inclusive culture because you've got so many different ways of thinking all working in one place. We really value diversity of thought at Dstl because that is how we make the big innovations that we make. And I'll read through this slide because I think that really adds to it. But you can see we have employee networks. So no matter what you kind of identify with or what you do outside of work or anything like that, we want to make sure that's included in work. One of these is even a new starters network because we're quite aware that new starters can sometimes join and just feel a bit lost. So we really saw that niche there to make sure you're included in things. The SDL can be quite an acronym heavy workplace because of the nature of the work we do. So things like the new starters networks really just gives you that safe space where no question is a silly question. One of the big things that we've done in the past year is we launched our diversity and inclusion strategy, which is now being implemented. So we've never had a diversity and inclusion strategy before, but I'm actually part of the working team that is now implementing it, and some really interesting bits going on in that place. You can see from the bottom there, we're signed up to lots of things like the Armed Forces Covenant, the Race for Work Charter, we're a disability confident employer, the Derby House Principles. So we're really trying to embed diversity and all the different cultures at the very heart of Dstl. One of the newest ones that actually we're looking to implement is a social mobility network, which will hopefully be implemented this year as well. So that's really exciting. Constantly looking for what are those groups that we need to make sure we're really looking after.
Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting you mentioned the acronyms actually, because there's been a couple of sessions this week where apprentices have been speaking about their own personal experiences and what the challenges they have faced, and quite a few of them, especially in the more kind of technical roles, have said acronyms, but also what they said on the flip side was make sure, train yourself to be confident enough to ask, and even though you might feel like, oh, this sounds like such a ridiculous question, you're just going to end up kind of going up like this if you don't. So always be upfront and be that person to ask the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working at Dstl for 4 years now, and I came straight from uni. And even just on the business side of it, the amount of acronyms that we used, and I was that person. I was always that person that said, sorry, what does that mean? Or sent the email saying, can you just, at least the first time you say it, don't use the acronym. And even this week, when I was talking earlier about those new apprenticeships we've got in estates, the health and safety ones, I was learning all new acronyms in the health and safety space and typing them out in the job profile so we knew what they were. So yeah, definitely always ask, no matter how long you've been working somewhere, always ask, because you can guarantee there's probably at least 5 other people on the call that also want to know what they mean.
Yeah, and I bet as well, as technology advances and you work on different projects, there's so much brand new stuff. You need to learn things from scratch, probably from each project you go from one to the other. So it's a never-ending learning curve. There was a question that came up which is interesting. It sounds like a big organization. How do I stand out and not get lost within the number of employees? It was a question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is quite a large organisation. We stand at about 4,500 employees, but all of that is broken down into divisions, groups, and teams. So your team is probably no more than 20 people, to be honest, and you have your own team leader. So you've always got that really close support, so you're not going to get lost. And you have, I think there's really good visibility of our senior leaders as well. So at that group level, like I could message my group leader right now and she would probably respond, even though it's 5:30 on a Friday. So I think, and there's lots of those, what we're talking about as well, those like thank yous and reward and achievements. Just put yourself forward, like never be shy. If you think you've done something great, tell your team leader, because they're probably agreeing with you. They might just not have had the time to come and give you a pat on the back for it. I'm doing it all the time in the early career space. I'm constantly going out to team leaders and saying, hi, has anyone done anything brilliant that we can write about or you want to share? There's lots of internal pages as well. Every month is a thank you page for like just amazing things within the business. So I think just make sure your voice is heard. And whether that is you're not necessarily confident first off in a meeting, just send an email to everyone afterwards. You know, it doesn't always have to be verbal if you're not immediately comfortable with that. It could be an email. We have an internal system like WhatsApp called Jabber. It could be a private message to someone. Just make sure you put yourself out there and it will be recognised.
Brilliant, thank you. I've had a couple of questions come through, and if you're going to cover it, then I'll just disappear. But asking about the assessment centres and what they consist of and how to prepare for them.
Yeah, I have got a section a little bit later on where I'll talk about how we apply, so I'll come back round to that bit later. And the person who's asked that will probably be pleased to know we've cut assessment centres out of the application process.
I don't know, might not just be that one person.
Yeah.
Right then, let me disappear, let you carry on, and I'll join you for some more questions.
Perfect. So let's have a look at what our apprenticeships actually are, like what they are and how they work. So we run a range of apprenticeships from level 3 to 6, and they can last from 2 to 6 years. All of the schemes are a mixture of hands-on work and classroom learning. In most cases, it's kind of 80% of your time is spent with Dstl and 20% of your time is spent on study. How that looks varies depending on the course that you're on. Some of them, it's 1 day a week. Some of them, you get block release to university. So you could spend 3 whole weeks at university and then 3 months in Dstl. Your time at Dstl, you'll be working on the real projects, and what you'll be doing is will have a genuine impact on the work of the scientists and the technologists at Dstl. Throughout your course, you work with your Dstl team leader and a representative from your university or college, and we set your KSBs, which are knowledge, skills and behaviours, and this is what you will then be assessed against. All of the courses that we run are a mixture of coursework and exam. And when I say coursework as well, it's not necessarily written coursework because of the nature of the apprenticeships. It could be building something. It could be a physical, hands-on kind of assessment based coursework where you then present something. So not necessarily written. At the end of it, you'll do what is called an endpoint assessment, and that's probably the most academic assessment section of the apprenticeship, and we allow a 6-month period in addition to your apprentice course for you to complete that. So we never want anyone to have to rush it because they're worried the contract's coming to an end or anything like that, so we always put an extra 6 months on there. After your endpoint assessment, you'll receive your full qualifications, and then in some cases, I mentioned this earlier, you'll become a member of an institute, such as Explosive Engineers for our OME apprentices. And there's lots of other institutes as well. That's just one example there. So these are some of the apprenticeships that we are advertising at the moment that are starting in September 2022. We also this week had a last-minute request for quite a few more apprenticeships. Like I mentioned earlier, our exploration division has requested a couple of new apprenticeships. We also have a commercial and a communications apprenticeship that we've not run before, which we've just got a request in for. So when I get the updates of those next week, I'll make sure they're all included in this. But you can see the kind of how it splits. So you can see there's kind of, I think there's 3 technical ones on there. There's also a software one that's about to go live, and then the rest are business. So it really is mixed across them. you can see the higher level apprenticeships tend to take longer, but it is reflected in your pay. So don't worry that because you're doing a higher level apprenticeship and you'll be learning for longer, don't let that be a limiting factor if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be on less pay for longer, because we make sure it's reflected in your pay. Is there any kind of questions about any of those courses? Because we've not got any of our technical apprentices here today. But what I can do is we can kind of, if we could capture the questions, we can do a Q&A after with any kind of technical things around them.
No, not necessarily. More questions around how study will be integrated into the like the working day, so what the expectation is, and I guess also that's going to really vary depending on the level of the apprenticeship, but yeah, if you can just give a bit of an idea of what the expectation is and the reality of doing an apprenticeship and working with you at the, at the same time, how you balance it, and whether there's an internal kind of like corporate expectation of what you should be doing too.
Yeah, so all of our apprenticeships, when you apply for them, come with a job profile, and on that it breaks down what your job is within Dstl in addition to what the apprenticeship is. But when we write those job profiles, everything that we expect you to do that is internal to Dstl all reflects to something that you will be learning in the apprenticeship. For example, one of the things that they do in the business admin space is they teach you how to run a project. So the apprenticeship will say to you, okay, you need a project, because that is part of your coursework. So you'd come to us and we'd be talking with the academic business as well. So we'd know that, and we'd have a range of projects lined up, and we can say, okay, what's going to work best for you? What can you get involved in that is going to tick your apprentice knowledge, skills and behaviours. And it's the same in the technical areas as well. So within the technical areas, obviously there's certain work we have to do. A request comes in from the government or from the army. We have to do that work, but within that work, we pick these apprenticeships because they reflect the work that we're naturally doing anyway, or that we want to progress more into. So you'll never do a bit of work at Dstl that isn't linked to your apprenticeship. And the way the knowledge, skills and behaviours is, your team leader will work with you to write them up as you're doing them as well. So it's not this overwhelming thing of all of a sudden you have to think, okay, what have I done and what does it relate to for the past 3 months? It's a constant kind of blend of the both of them.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. A couple more questions around this. Is the degree that you would obtain from an apprenticeship the same as a degree that you would get or recognised in the same way as one that you'd get from university outside of an apprenticeship?
Yep, absolutely. So that degree certificate will be from whichever university you're studying the degree at, and it would look the exact same and be the exact same as someone that's gone to university for 3 years and got their certificate. So it's 100% the same. You just got paid while you were doing it.
There you go. And who are the degrees accredited by? Which universities are they run with?
Oh, so there's lots of different ones depending on what you're doing. Our OME one, for example, is with University of Wales. But what I can do is I can send that out in a full list afterwards, because if I sit and go through them all, and they change as well. We review them every year, because we go on a lot of trailblazer activities, and that basically means we adapt university courses to what is needed in the industry, which means changing modules and stuff like that. So who we went with last year, we might not necessarily go with this year if we're looking for a slightly different skill set. But at the point of application, you can always ask us and we'll let you know which university it's going to be with, and we'll always accommodate you with travel to the university and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Okay. So, for example, the University of Wales accredited degree, would it be physically at the university as well?
So it's been a mixture over the past 2 years because of COVID. I'm not 100% sure which direction they're going in at the moment. I know this previous cohort have done most of their work kind of over, video calls and stuff like that. But before that, our apprentices were going to the University of Wales, and we paid for their travel there and stuff like that and arranged it all with them.
Brilliant. There was a question about, and I think you've really answered it here, but do you need to drive?
Oh, sorry, I think I might have cut out then. I didn't hear that last question.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think you've answered the question in talking about paying for travel and so on, but there was a question which I will ask, which was, do you need a driving license to apply?
So you do not need a driver's license to apply. In some of the civil service jobs listing, you will see it as a desirable attribute, because in the long term of the apprenticeships, it will be helpful, but you'll not be sifted out because of it. Definitely not. And in terms of travel, yeah, any work travel we can pay for by train, all that sort of thing. We can do car shares if there is one apprentice that drives and you all want to travel together, because you will be with a group of people as well. So no, do not need to worry about driver's license.
Very helpful, thank you. A couple of questions around, I'm not ready to apply just yet. Is this something that is done every year? So is it something that they can work towards for the future?
Yes, definitely. Our apprenticeship is actually a space that's really growing at the moment. So every year we're currently recruiting more and more apprentices. So definitely something that you can look to do in the future. At the moment, our business ones kind of change what they're offering every year based on what they need in-house. But generally, our ordnance munitions, our embedded, our software, our engineering tech apprentices, they run every year.
Brilliant. Got some questions around work experience, and I don't know whether you're going to be covering this, but I'll ask the question now anyway. What kind of work experience is desirable, and also what kind of assets are desirable outside of academia to be considered and successful in application?
Yeah, so depending on what you're applying for in terms of work experience, if you're looking at one of our business ones, anything where you've worked in a kind of customer facing role will always really help you, because the way it works is our business side, the customers for us are our science and technology people. We want to keep them happy and their jobs ticking. So if you've got any sort of, even if it's a shop, working in a shop experience, highlight that face-to-face interaction and that customer service, because that will always help you. In terms of our science and technology ones, anything within science and technology, whether it's government or not government, that you've been to, free talks online at a university, anything like that, absolutely let us know, because that's what we really look for outside of academia, is a genuine interest in it. Because especially this is for our embedded degree, we find often the people that really thrive in this space aren't necessarily the most academic people, but they're the people that after school sit and build a robot or do something like that. Don't ever think that putting things like, oh, my hobbies are electronics. Absolutely, like that is what we are looking for.
And I was actually just in a session before this, and we were talking about something very similar, and essentially saying that there are so many free online resources and courses that you can do, short courses, that also shows initiative, and those are also things that can be considered, and in most cases shine quite a positive light on an individual.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I think even attending talks like this, showing that you've been engaged from the beginning, you might not necessarily have a place to put it on the application form, but if you make it through to the interview and at the end you're having a general chat, bring up and mention, oh, during National Apprenticeship, I attended talks from these employers because I found the area really interesting. And it just shows us again how dedicated and interested you genuinely are.
Brilliant. Just on this topic, one more question. What is the support like in terms of joining as an apprentice? Do you get to work and liaise with current or previous apprentices?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our apprentices will have the same team leader, no matter if they're in their first, second, third, sixth year. So you've all got that one person who links you all together. And generally when there's things like, we quite often arrange things like talks or visits for our apprentices. It won't be like, oh, this is just for the first year apprentices. It's for everyone. So on Tuesday, 20 of our apprentices from all years went to a tank museum for the day as a day out as a cohort so that they could get to know each other. At the moment, we're working on an onboarding system, so it's not live yet, but who knows, it might be soon. And this is a system that will allow us to have more interaction before you started Dstl, but as you're preparing to start Dstl, and that's the sort of place where we want to be able to send you things like information about all those networks that I said, like how you join them when you start, how you can chat to people and get to know people, all that sort of thing. So we definitely do it, and it's an area we're looking to improve as well.
Brilliant, thank you. That's the questions for now. I'll disappear and let you carry on. Thanks, Amy.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go on to what the application process looks like now. So the first, like I said earlier, we don't do assessment centres anymore. So all of our jobs are promoted via civil service jobs, and this is where you have to submit them as well. So the application on civil service jobs will vary depending on the role. So the level 3 apprenticeship might ask for something different than the level 6 apprenticeship. The first thing you always have to do on civil service jobs is to create an account. And I'd say even if you're not looking to apply yet, creating an account on civil service jobs can be really helpful because you can set alerts on there for things that you're interested in. So even if you don't want to apply yet, it's always good just to see what's going on in the space, and even having a look at the applications, maybe start the odd application, even if you know you're not going to submit it, just so you can see the types of questions that come up is always really helpful. So first thing it asks you for is a short application. This is standard across civil service, which is just basic things like your name and email address so we can contact you, that sort of bit. For the apprenticeships, the level 6 ones have a couple of online tests, so there'll be a verbal test and a numerical test. These can be taken whenever you want, as long as it's before the deadline. It's not like we send you the link and it expires in 24 hours. So what we always advise you do at that point is once you're going to do the test, go on the .gov website, and there's lots of links on there for practice tests, for hints and tips before you take the test, which fully explains them. There's videos on there, so make sure you take full advantage of that before you do any sort of online test, because it really will help you. Once you're past those tests, it's the full application, and this is where we'll ask you those slightly more technical questions. But to be honest, in the apprenticeship space, because these are entry-level roles, we're not necessarily asking for your full job history. It might be part of your CV, but what we're looking for is that statement. We ask for what we call a statement of suitability, and the title of it is, why are you interested in this role? Like, why do you want to do it? What can you bring to it? And that's where you really get the chance to kind of to sell yourself to us almost, I guess. But it's where you can say, I spend my spare time building circuit boards and that sort of thing. And it just allows us to really see you as a person, not just as this is a qualification list and this is your job history list. And part of that section as well is something called behaviours. And again, if you go onto civil service jobs and you look at civil service behaviours, they're all listed there. So you can see, say on the application it says we're going to assess working together. You can go on and you can see exactly what that means. So always read those before you fill them out as well, and it will really help you. So once you've submitted that full application, your application is reviewed by the hiring manager, and it's assessed for the criteria against the job advert. So always make sure you save that job advert as well and really read it all. Don't just skim read through it, because it does. If we can see you're clearly looking at the job advert and you're going, right, this is what they want, here I'm demonstrating it, we will always pick that up. After that, those who score the highest, again, on civil service jobs, you can see our scoring matrix. So everything's really clear. You'll get a number and it aligns and you'll be able to see it all there. So, you know, it's not complicated or anything like that. We'll bring you into interview stage. The interview, again, can depend on the level of apprenticeship you're applying for. Some of them might ask you to do a presentation around a subject. Whenever we do that, we try and give you at least 2 weeks notice so you can prepare for the presentation. We're also aware of things like school schedules and stuff like that, so we always try and be flexible, and we can offer video interviews as well if you can't get onto our sites and things like that. After the interview process, should you become successful, either someone in my team in HR or the hiring manager will get in contact with you. We'll kind of, you know, ask you, are you happy with the job? Do you want to accept it? We'll have a bit of a conversation with you. And if you say yes, we will send you a formal offer via civil service jobs, and our security team will be in touch with you to start all of our security checks. And then once we're through all that, we look to plan the start date, but generally for our apprenticeships, start dates are always in September because it lines up with the academic year. And we liaise with you and the university to make sure you're all enrolled on the course in time and all that sort of thing. So sometimes even if our security clearance is taking a bit longer, you can still enroll and start the university and academic side of the course. Any questions come through on that sort of how you apply to it side? Because I know that's always an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you've answered so much of it quite articulately already. So there were questions around what kind of tools can I use to practice, and you've already said that you actually have those to use already, so utilize them. I don't know whether there's anything outside of that you would recommend.
I mean, outside of those, I think there's the it's not a civil service standard, but we look for the STAR example. So I'd have a read up on the STAR example when given, and that's kind of your situation, how you responded to it, all that sort of thing. And if we can clearly, it's a very clear way to lay out your application. It makes it easy for us to read and easy for you to write, and we will see that as well as a skill, because it's a skill you can use at Dstl when you might be writing a report on an activity you've done in a lab or something like that too. So have a look at the STAR method for answering questions.
The STAR method has actually been mentioned a lot this week, and we've had questions around that, which have been like, well, if everybody else is using the STAR method, am I going to differentiate myself by using that method too? But I think for anybody else who's listening, and I'm sure you would completely resonate with this, it's not about the method that you use, it's about what you say that will differentiate yourself. It just makes sure that you're answering everything completely, like from start to finish, about how you did it, what you did it, why you did it, what the outcome was. So don't be afraid of that, like looking like you're going to be answering everything the same as everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. I actually had a perfect example of that last year, where 2 people applied who had been at school together and done the same courses, but one of them honestly used the STAR method and one didn't, and the difference in the applications were incredible. One was so easy to read, whereas the other, it wasn't clear what the person was trying to get across. It made it hard for us to understand. So absolutely, it makes a difference, and it does make you stand out against less articulate applications.
And actually that leads me on quite nicely to the next question, which is, how can I make my application stand out as much as possible in comparison to others? I
think having all those things that isn't just, yes, I meet the grade criteria, so if I've ticked that box, having those bits in there that show your real interest, or things that you've done, like attending stuff like this, I think that is where it really makes the difference. And that's why we put that statement of suitability section in there for you. We don't just do the tick box and the technical questions, because we want to know about you. So use that section and just sell yourself. Whether you might have led on a project whilst doing your A-levels, that's leadership. Make sure you say, I am a leader. We really like it as well when you say things like that. Say you've been doing a project together and you say, we did this. Say you did this, because it's you that we're interested in. Yes, you worked as a team. So say, I worked as a team and I did this. That's always something that will really help you stand out.
It's not the first time I've heard that this week, actually, and it's really interesting because it's a natural way to say, well, we did this, we did that. And I think actually I tell you why it stuck with me, because I would think that it would show me as a great team player. I think it's a natural assumption that, like, we did this and I was part of this, but no, like you said, actually.
Oh, I think I've frozen again. Oh, I can't tell if I've frozen or Korean Mag is frozen. Does anyone else confirm?
I'm back. I'm so
okay.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, so it was a question around whether the adjustments that can be made for people who are potentially dyslexic, dyspraxic, or have any, anything else that they need support on.
Yes. So when it comes to, in terms of those tests that I mentioned, none of them are timed, nothing like that on them. So there's no need for time. We get a lot of people that ask us, oh, can I have a time extension because I've got this? None of them are timed, so they're all really open. We are part of what is called the Guaranteed Interview Scheme. So for no reason should any visible or hidden disability ever get in the way of your application or your attendance to an interview. And that is part of the application process. It's in there so you can tick it and you can let us know at the very application stage, is there any extra bits that you need help with? And if it's at the application stage, it will immediately fire off an email, so we'll know you're trying to do an application, but we need to do some assessment before you do the application. And again, if it's at the interview stage, it automatically sends a notification for us to look at and say, okay, so what adjustments do we need to make at the interview stage? So we're a disability confident employer. It should never affect anything.
Brilliant. And my last question on this subject for you, and it's a core actually. What questions should you suggest asking the interviewer in the interview?
Oh, I'd say if you're having an interview at Dstl, I'd always ask, what is the most interesting project that you've worked on that you can tell me about? Because there'll definitely be some interesting projects there and some interesting insight into Dstl. And you'll also see the TL probably go really quiet as they try and think about what can I say and what can't I say. So it puts them on the spot as well, so they know how you feel.
Oh, that's brilliant. Another question just popped in. Okay, Justin's asked, Justin, I think we've kind of covered this. She said, does your application process have to stand out? Well, Amy spoke a lot about what you can do to stand out. There's been a huge amount of kind of tips and advice. So, Justin, what I would say on this is if you just wait for us to send the recording link in your email box next week, you will see everything that Amy's given us the information on. But yeah, Amy, there's no more questions around this for now. Do you want to just carry on with the presentation?
Yeah, so we're pretty much there in terms of what I've got to tell you about the apprenticeship. So this is where we were going to have a couple of our apprentices tell you about themselves, but they couldn't make it. So what we could just do is we could watch these first two ones. Maybe we could watch Charlotte's video and Stacey's video. And they are apprentices at Dstl, just quick 1-minute videos that give you a bit of insight into what it's really like to be an apprentice.
So the work that apprentices get is no different to the work anyone else gets. I've gone on explosive trials, I've done lab work, learning about munitions. I'm Charlotte. I'm an Ordnance Munitions Explosives Apprentice at Dstl. I felt like I've gained a lot of confidence in my field. I've actually been able to sort of make decisions and do tasks and things that I've never thought I'd do before. Can't say that enough how many different projects that I've been involved in. So I've got mates that have sort of done the traditional university path. They think that the whole explosives thing is just really cool, really outlandish. They can sort of see that I'm really enjoying it. So what I'm probably most proud at Dstl was organising the trial that I did over the summer. It was pretty exhausting. I just wanted to see if I could do it. It was so rewarding at the end, just watching it all. I'm really happy that I can create such an impact at my experience level.
My name is Stacey. I am a laboratory technician in the bioscience team in Dstl, and I am also an apprentice studying a degree in bioscience. I was taking on work and I could perform the task practically, but I was a bit lacking in the theoretical knowledge behind it. Doing a degree level apprenticeship allows me to gain that knowledge. So my main role at the moment is to perform other quality control testing, whether it's antibodies that are made in-house or we get delivered in. Dstl has been very supportive. There have been lots of people who have sort of been around and offered me advice, cleared things up when I don't quite understand something. They've also, time allowance. They've let me manage my time so that I can still do 4 days a week in work, but also the 1 day at home to study the theoretical side behind it. I'd say Dstl Apprenticeship is a great way to go. You've got a good company full of people who are going to support you. You've got your income in the background, which is really going to help you in your personal life. It's just a great way to learn anything and everything.
Fantastic. What a nice way to end the session. Really nice videos they are.
I love those videos. They're the videos we pushed out this week for National Apprenticeship Week, and we're so happy with them. We tried to do a video on the 3 apprentices I mentioned earlier that have just got their first class degree, but this is an example of where Dstl gets really secret. The work they've worked on is just too secret to video, so we had to write an article instead, but it just adds to that interest in your work, even if you can't tell people about it.
Well, look, Amy, I have to say, it's been a really eye-opening session. It's been so interesting, really engaging, loads of amazing questions. We literally, we pretty much bang on the hour. There's 2 minutes to go. So I'm just going to say, before I hand over to you for a parting message, thank you, Amy and Dstl, for taking part. It's been brilliant and a wonderful way to end the week. Everybody still in the room, 700 people, over 700 people still here. So hello. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be logging off in a moment, just hand over to Amy. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy your weekends. Amy, take it away.
Yes, no, thank you for having us as well for this talk, and thank you for everyone attending at what's kind of the last slot on a Friday. But it's been really great to be here and talk to you all. We'll send out follow-ups afterwards as well. And if there's anything that's not in the follow-ups, you can always email dstlrecruitment@.gov.uk and we can get back to any questions there too. So thank you everyone for hanging on so long as well. I'm so happy that everyone stayed.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Take care.